welcome back to episode 3. We are the Midwest Mamas, raising the bar for special needs. We have Miss Lindsey Althaus, author of the Althaus Life blog.
Hi.
Trista Heffner, co-author of the Hurricane Heffners.
Hey.
BriAnna Olson, author of To Infinity and Beyond Words.
Hello.
And myself, Annie Smith, author of Raising Different Disabilities. We can all be found on Facebook and Instagram. P.S. Not the for Hurricane Heffners, just Hurricane Heffners. This week, we'd like to discuss routines and the future and what it looks like. As most of you have come to realize, families without special needs children are seeing what it's like to have change in plans, such as quarantines, having to leave work early for their sick kids. Some people are now seeing that just a cough or something simple that could be allergies. They're getting calls that they have to leave work, and it's putting a strain on their jobs. And their day-to-days of not knowing what to expect is starting to hit people hard. We live a life of unknown every single day. We are given a diagnosis and we're told, here's your diagnosis. We don't have a crystal ball for you. We don't know what your future holds or for your child. Your future can go back to normal after this pandemic, and they say that a vaccine is going to come along and things are going to go back, and that's not going to happen for us. There is no magic vaccine that's going to take anything away for us. What we have now is what we have probably for the rest of our lives. We do have hope. We have therapies and we have all the wonderful things that come along with that. But there is no magic shot that's going to take the pandemic of special needs away. So I just want everyone to take a moment and imagine this unknown feeling and stress and anxiety that you have had since March, and just imagine what it would be like to have that forever. So what do you guys think?
I think that personally, it's nice that people get to see what it looks like for us to be quarantined away from the world. Whitman has a different type of immune system just because he was a preemie. So we've always been overly protective of him and getting sick. So even with quarantine, we are way more protective of it just because he presents things so differently. Like most kids, when they get an ear infection, they won't lay down, they tug at their ear. Whitman will sleep a full night and then be very engaged the next day. And I always sound crazy when he engages with me, and I look back at my husband and I'm like, I think we need to go get his ears checked. And even he sometimes is like, why? And then I list all the reasons, and usually 9 times out of 10 we get there and they're like, yeah, his ears are border. Probably in the next 24 to 48 hours they'll be full-blown infected. And so I mean, you play this crazy mom detective for life, with illness. So I am freaked out of my mind, how he will, if he was to get COVID, how would he present it? I mean, we've been in quarantine for the last 10 days because he came in contact with it at school. And I literally watch him like a hawk every day to make sure there isn't one little weird thing off. Because the second one thing is off, I would have him loaded in the car and sit at the pediatrician, waiting for them to accept us into the building to check him.
I just kind of want to interject on that. My family is like that. We, ever since my boys were born, Lucas is medically complex. He has always had a feeding tube. He's got an airway disorder. He had laryngomalacia, which now, as he has grown older, that airway disorder has turned into asthma. And our daughter, our 4-year-old daughter, Blakely, she has asthma. So we are always germaphobes. And mine actually kind of has snowballed into more of like an anxiety disorder of being a germaphobe, but it's also for good reason, for their health. And so last year during this exact time, we were in flu season, and I was exactly how I am today presently as I was 1 year ago. But my family didn't understand. They thought it was crazy. They were like, "Oh, all the hand sanitizer. Why do you wash your hands so much? Why can't we wear our shoes in your home? This and that." And now everyone is starting to see who I was last year, why I was the way I was. Everyone is starting to wash their hands. Everyone is starting to become more vigilant about germs. Why weren't we like that a year ago?
Right. I mean, same kind of thing. Here, kind of like what Lindsey had touched on as well, that, we're kind of stuck in this kind of loop where you come home from the NICU and, they really hammer that into your head, like no, keep visitors really, really sparse, you need to be having hands washed, multiple times through their visit, hand sanitizer, no shoes on in the house, like you mentioned, Annie, and all those types of things. And they're like, it's going to be a really, I remember this nurse saying, it's going to be a really lonely world for a little while. And she said, but you'll get through that, and there'll be a time where you can start to incorporate more family, and they're just going to have to kind of understand. And that kind of always stuck with me. And, now we're kind of back to this loop where, they were kind of shoving us in, like, now you need to go full head on. Your son needs to be going and socializing. He needs to go to school. He needs to go to daycare centers, whatever, what have you, whatever the case is for your family. They kind of were throwing us in, like, now you need to acclimate him to build that immune system, and he needs to have something to, guard him. So we do that. We go ahead and now we're back to keep everything minimal, and it's really like almost surgical sterile type of thing that you kind of have to be at this, in the world that we're living in right now. And it's interesting that, like you mentioned, that everybody's kind of on the same playing field right now. Everybody has to be mindful, and especially ones like all of us where we have medically fragile and complex kids. And even if it's not a specific like disability or something like that, it's more like, for instance, with Beckett, with autism, he has that prematurity side. So we're always fearful of what he'll catch and how he'll kind of handle it. But he also puts everything in his mouth. It's a very, everything, he's very orally stimulated, and everything is a sensory thing through his mouth. So, not only do toys and different foods and random things from the ground go in his mouth, but so do his hands, so do his feet, so do, we're licking like doorknobs to see what it feels like and like things like that. And I'm like, we can't be doing that in this world. So I'm like hyper vigilant at all times. And I feel like, again, we're all kind of on that same playing field, and it's a really weird, strange kind of place to be in the world right now.
Yeah,
it really is. And David's a lot like Beckett, where he puts everything in his mouth. He, if he's not eating, it's his fingers or some toy, because he is wanting to feel the texture. And he uses his lips and his mouth and his cheek to feel different textures, get that sensory input, get the sensory stimulation. And with him having some words and some requests, he's not conversational. So he can't tell me if something hurts, if he's having trouble breathing, if he isn't feeling well. The only way that we can tell is if he's acting different. But like you guys were saying, every illness presents differently. It doesn't necessarily mean he acts the same if he has an ear infection or if he has a stomach ache. It's all different. And with something that's brand new, we don't know how he's going to react. We don't know what it's going to present like. So we're super vigilant as well. My husband has asthma as well. So we don't know. He could he could have complications and we don't know it yet because we've been so vigilant on the sanitization and everything like that. Like Annie was saying, this is our normal. This has always been our normal, to be super careful of what he comes into contact with, because we don't know what he's feeling or how he's going to present a new illness. I can't tell if he's got extra spit because he had his fingers in his mouth, or if he's getting a tooth, or if he might have a cavity or things like that. So this is our normal, this other than the school situation being a little bit different as far as the medical side of things and what we do to be preventative. This really isn't any different for us.
Right. And then on top of that, you kind of have that thrown in the mix where, because of, for instance, COVID right now, fortunately for me, Beckett is able to stay home with me, like in between the places that he's in. So if, for instance, if things were closed, I have the ability to be home with him. However, I know that seems like a oh, okay, problem solved, issue relieved. But it's like it opens up this whole new issue of his services are shut down as far as like ABA centers. Just like everyone else, school would be a huge thing. And then because routine is such a necessary thing for him to be at status quo and for his mood to be stabilized and for him to be comfortable, he has to have that routine, and it's not there because we're in this big pandemic where, nobody, like you mentioned at the beginning, Annie, nobody has a crystal ball, and we don't know how long this is going to be around. We don't know how long, so it throws an even bigger wrench in his plan that I can't remove for him. So right. It's just ever changing to the negative side of things. And then, we're developing new hards and new behaviors on top of it because we are not having, for instance, one of Beckett's major things right now is when someone enters our home, whether that be someone that he loves or someone that he's never seen before. It doesn't matter. It could be grandma and grandpa. It could be a repairman. It doesn't matter. He has a full-on meltdown in the middle of the living room when he sees someone enter his space. That is no longer a comfortable feeling for him. It's something that he really struggles with. And it was never an issue before COVID because people were in and out. We have a big family that loves to spend time with us, loves to spend time with him. And now it's just kind of anytime someone comes and enters this kid's massive bubble that he's created through this pandemic, it's a huge problem for him. So we're really struggling and trying to work hard on that.
I actually want to go back to something you said earlier about that we're all on the same playing field. That is a good thing, a good topic, because Miss Lindsey over here wrote a blog about put your mask on basically and come on, let's get this over with. It's kind of like people are still gathering, people are still wearing masks, people aren't sanitizing, people are sick, pandemic, COVID is running rampant, people aren't taking it seriously. And here's my thing. One of my sons, Jameson, he doesn't know an apple from an orange. Okay. So we're pretty certain he has an intellectual disability on top of his autism. And that's just being honest. Our autism looks a little bit different. So when he doesn't see family for longer than a week, 2 weeks, what have it, he doesn't know who you are. And when strangers choose to not wear masks and cause COVID and all these sicknesses to just skyrocket, that's one thing. But when you have family who chooses to not wear masks, to not take it seriously, to not sanitize, to not come around, my child doesn't know who you are. And that's devastating. That hurts. Absolutely. Not even necessarily just for Jameson or Lucas. Lucas understands, but he's 3, so his understanding is a normal 3-year-old. Blakely, she's almost 5. absolutely heartbroken about it. I can't imagine living my life as a child back then, with COVID, being in my home 24/7, having special needs brothers that I always had to wonder, to make sure that they're not going to get sick. Granted, this is her life. This is all she knows, but she knew family, and now family's not here, and that breaks her heart. So the playing field for us isn't really level. I mean, people aren't really understanding that, and that's the heartbreaking thing.
And that's a big learn for me. Like, I love hearing about your guys's different dynamic to ours, because I don't have that story to share with others, where I have kids that are neurotypical that are feeling this, I don't want to say same emotion, but they're feeling that same intensity, but in a whole different way, where they know, just like you said, they know when people come and go, they know when people aren't around, they know when something like, oh, mom, why can't we go to the park? Like, it's right there. Why can't we, why can't we go to a movie? Or we used to love to do that. I can't imagine having to have those conversations with your kids, because fortunately and unfortunately, Beckett just doesn't pay mind to those things, because he doesn't have interests that are surrounded around that yet.
Now, see, if it was just Jameson, or say it was that situation, it would be one thing. And we wouldn't have to have those explanations. We wouldn't have to have those conversations. But yeah, I do have to have that conversation with his sister, because these people are gone. They're not coming around anymore. And it's because they want to go and live their life, but we're still stuck here in this life. And it's lonely, isolating, and it's heartbreaking.
We're in the same boat as you, Annie, with our daughter Elena, who's a teenager. She's a junior in high school, and she's had to go virtual school this year just to be able to help protect her brother from bringing anything home. And it's hard, it's not fair to her, but it's our life, and she doesn't have friends that understand. They just ask her, why can't you just come to school? Why can't you just go hang out? And it's just our life. And she tells them, but they don't understand.
But it's so hard to explain to a child. So.
It is. We pulled Vivi out of everything once COVID started, and she's 3, and she has social anxiety now. She has 150% stranger danger, and that's all COVID. We've thought a couple of times to have her tested for autism, because she's just mimicking what she knows from home, because we can't take her out. She has congenital heart defects, and there's a chance that if she got COVID, she would have the 0.11% side effect, that's not the word I'm looking for, but she could have the I don't know if you guys saw in the news where kids were getting sick and their hearts were enlarged, and she could get that, and we would be in the hospital with her. And so we are vigilant about her not going anywhere, and we feel like she's this girl locked away. And I mean, you guys have seen her, she's hilarious and a lot of fun, and I hate that the world can't see her, because we have to keep her safe. And I mean, it's not our surroundings of people not taking care of themselves, it's just us doing it over precaution. Because I feel and I think that Bri can agree with this, because we touched on it last week, I feel once you almost lose one child, you become crazy overprotective of all your children, because you're so afraid, and you can't have, I mean, just thinking about COVID, Whitman getting coming in contact with it, I was fairly mellow about it, but in the back of my head, I was freaking out. What are we gonna do? How do we navigate this? Because when my friends her son got it on day 12 of quarantine, and then their whole family's been in, and he's been in and out of the hospital, getting checked on Zofran because he was puking. His mom had a horrible headache, and nobody could help. It's the most helpless you will ever feel in your life. And I mean, it is a spark of our reality a little bit. There are a lot of times when your kid is in the middle of a meltdown and nobody can really help you because you just gotta ride it out, and people don't understand that. They just assume that, like, you hand your kid a toy, you give the kid what they wanted, you know, like.
And isn't that interesting that people mean well and they really want to help, in that scenario. I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's kind of like, I'm still learning what makes this kid tick some days, and I'm still learning what makes things better and what makes things 100% worse in that moment for him. When we're in full meltdown mode, all you want to do for your kid is reach out and grab them and hug them and cuddle them and be like, it's okay, and just be so reassuring. But it comes across to him, specifically overbearing and too much touch, too much attention. He really backs away and shies away from that, and it's heart-wrenching in and of itself, because how do you react to something when all you want to do is hold your kid? I mean, the worst feeling is when he's hurt or he's sick and I just want to hold him and I just want to cuddle him, and he's like, I don't want anything to do with anyone right now. He's very standoffish, and it just breaks me every time, because I'm like, just let me hold you, just let me help you, just let me be with you. And he's like, no, thank you. That's just not how his mind, that does not help. As much as it helps me, it doesn't help him.
Yeah,
and it's hard.
It's awful.
I kind of wanted to take it back just a second to what you just said, Bri. You said what makes him tick, and does anybody ever feel like you're gonna wonder and try to figure it out forever? Like, that's what we're gonna do. This is forever. This is it's not gonna go away. This is how are we, what are we going to do to make life better for them forever?
And I think we kind of touched on that last week too, where we kind of said, something along the lines of, this is a forever thing. And it's like, once something is fixed, once you adjust one hard for them, or say it's just a phase, if you will, once that one kind of passes, or they push through it, or you find what works, the next thing follows, and it's something else. I think we have talked about that, Trista, one-on-one too, where you are constantly trying to solve the next problem. And I don't mean problem as in my child is a problem. I want to make that very clear. I mean the problem for him that is making his world uncomfortable. Like, how do I continue to mold his world into one that's better for him, even though it's not necessarily better for me and better for his dad or better for others that are, I say all the time that, it's Beckett's world and I'm just living in it. I'm just here. I'm just, I'm constantly trying to make it better for him, but it's hard when, there's no like instruction manual to parenting in general. And then it's like, there's this hidden chapter at the end for special needs parents that is like ripped out,
I have the name of it. It's called The Secret Life of Autism.
Oh,
that's the name of the chapter, I think.
I think so too.
I think it's a big secret. It's a big secret because, I mean, obviously we have to come on here and we have to advocate for our children, because it's a big secret. It's a big secret world that they live.
And you're not allowed to talk about when things are difficult for you or your kid. You're not allowed to talk about what it looks like when their world is a struggle that day, and when they're, like I say all the time, that when Beckett's in, for instance, today, we did not have a great, bubbly, joyous kid today. We just didn't. And I say all the time that he kind of is having like a Monday, because, it's like everybody is allowed to have those days. Everybody has those days, no matter your age, your race, your ethnicity, your gender, it doesn't matter. And somehow along the way, it's like we're not allowed to talk about that for our families and our kids. Somehow that doesn't apply to us. I don't know. That irks me every time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, because nobody really does understand it, and kids are allowed to have bad days. And if it happens to be at a birthday party, it's fine. Like, he can, we'll work it out. We will get better. Like, if it happens to be in the middle of the day at school, it's fine. Like, it will get better. Like, I mean, it's one of those everything with Whitman is trial and error. Like, absolutely trial and error, 110%.
I just kind of wanted to say, hard to talk about things that are more secretive, I feel like, because people want to hear a good story. They want to hear a good ending. They want to hear a happy ending. They want to see they want to see the autistic boy who is a genius that is gonna be an astronaut because he's so intelligent, but that's not how it always is, and unfortunately that's not gonna be my son. And
it's a hard pill to swallow. I feel you.
It really is a hard one to swallow. Like, you always have to wonder, and I mean, you're planning their whole life. Like, Jeremy and I are looking into and have money put aside for an able account for WIT, just because we're trying to be realistic about what the future could be.
I think that's amazing. I mean,
what does it look like for you? I don't mean to interrupt you, Bri, but
no, you're
real quick. Okay. What do you see that future for WIT?
I don't know. At this point, like, I would take how Amy has set up her son in the basement, where he lives independently and has a little side job that he does a couple hours a week. And I mean, that's the goal that I have right now. I mean, I'm not trying to limit WIT. Like, if something happens and like above and beyond, like, and he can do things, like, the sky's the limit for the kid, but we're just trying to be realistic. We're like, we're not hoping at 18 he's going to go off to college. So we're just being realistic.
Right. And again, realistic hope.
Yeah, I'm realistically hopeful that he will go off to college and he will have a really good job, and that the world will accept him with his iPad, because the technology in this world has come so far, and he is smart. He doesn't like to show people he's smart, but he is smart. So, I mean, but yeah, we have an able account just because we want to make sure that he is taken care of. Like, and that's just our real. And again, like, I don't want like people coming after me like, why aren't you giving him hope? I have all the hope in the world for that kid. Like, I literally will do whatever it takes to make him the most successful. But Jeremy and I went to this like seminar to get women's iPad because we got a grant for it, but you had to go to the seminar. And we were there, and this woman was like, if your child is 6 and you haven't planned their future, you're behind. And women was 6 at the time. And so like Jeremy and I like left that, and we had an hour drive home, and we were just talking it out. Like, what does our future look like? Like, we were forced to talk about it. And so that was what our plan was. Like, we just decided that, we got one set up anyways, because if something, God forbid, something happened to Jeremy and I, like, we wanted to be able to like have family take care of WIT and not have to worry about trying to pay for therapies and all of that type of stuff. But I mean, we are realistically hopeful that could go to college or a vocational type of training or school. But if it doesn't, we can at least use it to maybe help with his care later in life. Like, maybe it could be a down payment on a condo that is like down the street from where Jeremy and I are living. Or
that is very much a super similar scenario to what Cameron and I hope to. Like, if I could paint it for myself, in the event that Beckett needed to stay with us forever, if that was his reality, if that was how his story is supposed to go, then I would love nothing more than to like have him just have his own like level of the house, like live in the basement, have his own kitchen, learn how to, do all these things and be as independent as possible with me at arm's reach if there's truly something that he needed assistance with, you know. And then that kind of snowballs into, okay, I'm gonna get emotional. My biggest fear in life is what happens, when I'm not here anymore. That is the thing that I carry around with me all day, every day. Because being a only child, I don't have other kids that I can look to say, can you look in on your brother? Can you give him a call, make sure he's okay? Can you, I have siblings of my own that would gladly say that they would take him in a second if something happened to Cameron and I. However, they both have very large families of their own, and so my mind is always kind of in this place of, what do I do, when they have 3-4 kids of their own? I don't, not that he wouldn't be taken care of by any means, but I don't want him to get lost in this shuffle of this crazy world when I'm not here to answer all these questions for him, anymore. And it's a scary place to be. Sorry to take it there, but that's the reality that we're kind of carrying around.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's already heavy, so I just got to take it there with you, because whenever I talk about Jameson, period, anytime, I swear, I don't know what it is, but it makes me emotional, because I have a lot of faith, and I have a lot of faith in Jesus, and I have a strong relationship. And I just know that he was sent to me from God, and he is an absolute angel. And I just know that his future, realistic hope, is different. It's a different feeling from going from wanting him to learn how to do his ABCs and read, to having a good quality of life and knowing how to feed himself, and to tolerate brushing his teeth, or tolerate putting his hands in water. And I just know that he will be with my husband and I forever, and we've accepted that. I mean, it's just the way that it is. And it's a very hard thing to finally get to, but like I said, this hard isn't going to go away. It just changes.
Yeah.
What's it look like for you, Trista?
Very similar to each of you, where Lindsey and Bri were talking about the realistic hope. I just had a conversation with my mom last night. I made the comment, I need to live forever. It's our reality.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, Annie, too, about how do you, I think Kate from Finding Cooper's Voice has actually said something super similar to this before, about that, making that physical switch in your mind from wanting having these hopes and dreams in your head before you have kids, or early on in their life, about how you want them to, grow up and have huge families and be doctors and be lawyers or be a writer, be whatever. And then that switch that you go from career paths in your mind to them, to what is their living situation going to look like? What is are they going to, and just absolute quality of life was, the perfect way to sum it up, because that's kind of where we're at. I mean, I can think of 100 million things worse than having to spend the rest of my life with my son. I mean, it's a gift and this big ball of emotion all in one, because I am blessed to be able to say that I get to spend my son's life with him in a different way, like in a longer, more up close and personal, in a more intimate way, where he knows that he can come to me any minute of the day until I'm not here anymore. And it's like, I feel like that's the most beautiful part about it, is that he gets to stay with us. I mean, even though it looks different than the norm of society, it's like I was gifted that. And on the days that I have the worst days, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We can't live 1,000 years, you know, like that's what I take away from it, or I try to, is, you know, we know what the worst case scenario of life is, and that is to lose it. And we lost a child, and that is the worst thing. Disabilities are not the worst thing. Autism is not the worst thing. You know, these are, it's just its own kind of beautiful that you just are learning every single day. I mean, I know you all feel that on some, you know, one way or another every single day.
Well, I think that's it for this week. Oh, thanks for coming on this journey with us today. Please don't forget to go on Facebook and find us, our blogs, and we're also on Instagram. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and comment below and let us know how we did, and hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified every time that we upload. And we will be back next Monday. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.